IPTV. This is the Trumpeter's Call, part of Eric Newble Ministries. We are streaming live on Facebook. Please jump over here to Facebook Live. The more you jump over here, the more people we get on here, the more that you share while you're on here. The more hits we get. You can go to the Trumpeter's Call Facebook page. We're also doing these on YouTube, so you'll be seeing those for our covenant partners. This will be all part of that exclusive content. So welcome everyone to IPTV. Couple quick announcements. We have First Fruits coming up February 20th at 10 a.m. at Inspiring Ministries. We are going to have a wonderful time. We also have it at Jude International this weekend, February 13th, right before Valentine's Day. So come on over there. I'm telling you, my wife and I, we have been so blessed. God has blessed us incredibly. We have been so faithful, very diligent to try to make sure that we sow in first fruits, we sow in good ground, and God has just blessed us tremendously. All right, and coming up in March, we have the ICCM Leadership Summit. It's going to be in person. It's going to be in person and virtual. We want you, if you can come out, that would be great to have a great crowd. We're going to take out every precaution, but I'm telling you, the anointing, the incredible rich word that you're going to get, it is going to bless you. Okay, well, now we're going to jump in. We've been talking about led by the Spirit. There is Sister Ann Paxton. God bless you. Faithful woman of God. Always the first one. Always the first one at just about every service. Always the first one on Facebook. Thank you so much. And her running buddy, Pastor Bernice Dunn. God bless you, Pastor. So good to see you. All right, I'm telling you, those two are a powerhouse down at Inspiring Ministries International. They do an incredible amount for the ministry. They are just so faithful. They are two peas in a pod. Listen, you better not say anything about either of them because the other one is going to jump on you. Okay, that's the kind of love and that's the kind of relationship and fellowship that they have for each other. All right. We've been talking about led by the Spirit, and Apostle Eric, the last time he was on, he talked about when hope dies, when hope dies. And Proverbs 13:12 says, a hope deferred maketh the heart sick. A hope deferred maketh the heart sick. So I want to kind of take a look at this and want to jump into this and really start taking a look at what happens when our hope is deferred, when we feel like our hope dies. So if we take a look, what does hope mean? Well, hope means to expect, to wait on. It means to be pained. See, when you're hoping on something, you want that thing so bad, you are looking for that thing, you are expecting it, you're waiting on it, and it pains you. It pains you. I mean, you are waiting on this thing, and I mean, you could just feel it on the inside. It is paining you. But the problem is that oftentimes our hope gets deferred. Well, what do you mean by that? Well, deferred means to postpone, to drag along, to draw out, to draw out. See, sometimes we could be hoping on something and we could be expecting on it. We're waiting on it. And like I said, it hurts, it pains us, and then sometimes it gets deferred. It gets postponed. We thought it would happen at a certain time, and it didn't. Hey, Elder Charisse, God bless you. She's got a powerful intercessory continuation of the Trumpeter's Call. They do intercessory prayer. They do an awesome job on that. Look for that on Facebook Live. But at any rate, oftentimes we have a hope, and it gets drawn out. It drags along. And sometimes you feel like, God, is it ever going to happen? Will it ever happen for me? God, this thing that I've been waiting on, where is it? I don't know about you, but there are times I am not a patient person. Okay? I am not a patient person. Hey, Pastor Darlene, God bless you. At any rate, I'm not patient. And I'm like, Lord, what? We live in a microwave society. We want things now. See, I'll never forget when I was in college, after I recently graduated from college, I had there's a bunch of us that we all graduated from college, and we were all in the ministry together. We all started going. We went from Unity of the Faith, Full Gospel Deliverance Church. We came over to Judah International, um, and we came over to Judah International. And I'm not kidding you. I want to say we had somewhere between like 5 to 7 weddings, all in one summer. So imagine I'm a young man, just graduated from college. I'm on fire for Jesus, and all my friends, they get married. That's wonderful. That was great. I was so happy for them. But guess what? I wasn't getting married. I think I did everything in the wedding. I mean, I was a best man. I was an usher. I was a groomsman. I mean, I did everything everything that you can do in a wedding. I did it, except get married. I was like, okay, well, you know what? Maybe it may not be this summer. Maybe it'll be next summer. Maybe it'll be, the summer after that. Maybe, okay, maybe it'll take a little bit of time, but God will bring me the right person, and it'll happen, right? I had no idea that I was going to have to wait a couple decades. Now, I know you're looking like a couple decades. I don't want to wait that long. I didn't either. That's not how I planned it. My hope got deferred a lot. A lot. All right. I graduated college when I was 21. All these folks got married right around that time. And, you know, I got married way later in life. And the thing is that, hey, Sister Cheryl, God bless you. Um, so I'm sitting here as a single man. All my friends are married. And, what made it really difficult also is, when I go to church, everybody's married. And then when I go to work, everyone's married and they have kids. And so we'd be sitting around at work, and people would talk about, oh, I'm doing this with our family, our kids in softball, or they're in baseball, or we had to take them for we went on a family vacation, we did this, we did that, right? And people would be talking, and you know me, I'm a very extroverted person, and I really enjoy talking and conversating. I'd be really quiet in those conversations at work. I'd be really quiet, and then, after people got through talking, they kinda looked, they said, "Neil, you married? Do you have kids?" And I gotta be honest, I would feel so embarrassed, and I would be like, no, not yet." "Oh, okay." And, people were trying to be nice, but you could hear the surprise, like, "Wait a minute, how old are you? You've never been married? You don't have any kids? You don't have a family? You don't—" And again, people were nothing was wrong. They weren't being mean, they weren't being, ill-hearted or anything. But they were like, "Oh, okay." And I was like, "Yeah, okay." And inside, I just had this horrible feeling. See, a hope deferred maketh the heart sick. That word sick means to become weak. It means to be tired. It means to make oneself sick. You could deal with so much heartache, you can deal with so much pain sometimes emotionally because things don't happen the way we want it to, that we can make ourselves emotionally sick. See, something in me just felt like, God, what's wrong with me? What is what's wrong with me? And when you're familiar with yourself, you got all kind of issues. You're like, oh my gosh, I got this issue, that issue, that, oh my goodness. And you're like, man, and then your whole testimony starts changing. Well, God, maybe it'll never happen for me. Maybe I'll never get married. Maybe I'll never have a family. Maybe I'm supposed to be alone my whole life. And you start feeling sick on the inside. And Apostle's coming out with a book. He's got a whole module of videos, and he's going to come out with a book called Vision Fatigue. And it's all about this, how to deal when your vision doesn't come to pass and that fatigue that you feel. So on the inside, we could feel tired. We can just feel like, and see, the problem is we know that life and death is in the power of the tongue. And what ends up happening is you start feeling this way, and your whole conversation starts changing. And you know what? This is exactly what the enemy wants. Because when we're not speaking that faith talk, when we're not speaking that God we're believing, hey, I know it seems like it'll never happen, but Lord, you said it, it's going to happen. When we start losing that, the enemy just starts having a field day. They've done studies where people who They don't expect much. They're like, well, maybe if it happens, great. If it doesn't, I would try to spiritually rationalize, well, Lord, maybe it's just not time, which was true. But I would say, you know, I'm not going to set myself up with expectation. I'm not going to set myself up with hope, only to be disappointed. See, Proverbs 13 and 12 in the Message Bible says, unrelenting disappointment leaves you heartsick. Unrelenting disappointment leaves you heartsick. Sometimes it just feels like, oh my gosh, why is it one thing after another? What? God, can I just have a normal day? Why do I always have to deal with things like this? Right? I mean, just this past weekend, it was snowing. I was trying to get to the gym, and you know what? I slid off into a ditch, and I had to sit there for an hour and a half waiting for a tow truck to come. And then the next day, I said, okay, you know what? I got to get something done. I'm going to get my prescription, right? And I went to try to get my prescription. Oh, sorry, we didn't fill it. I'm like, man, see, I live in Mackinac now. That's 30 minutes away from everything. And so I'm like, I got to drive another 30 minutes. It's not like when you lived in Bloomington, there was like 6 Walgreens you could go to like within a 5-minute driving distance. And you know what? I found myself almost wanting to curse that we have this beautiful home out in Mackinac. It's been a blessing. It's a blessing to live out here, right? But I almost found myself wanting to start cursing my blessing. Why? Because of unrelenting disappointment. Something as simple and as trivial as that can cause us to go over the edge and lose hope. And I was like, man, my whole countenance, my whole spirit was messed up. And I'm like, Lord, why am I getting so? Because see, when you have unrelenting disappointment, the enemy wants to snowball this effect, right? The enemy wants to throw something at you, then throw something else at you, and all of a sudden you just lose hope, you lose spirit. And we may think, well, that's just an isolated event. It's just, something just something with a prescription, going to the drugstore. But how many know, see, if we let those things creep in, that starts forming a habit. That gives the enemy an opening to start going in. Now, Bishop has been preaching out of Ezekiel chapter 47, where Ezekiel had a vision of the temple, and then he saw water running out of the temple. And in Ezekiel 47 and 8, the scripture says that, then said he unto me, these waters issue out towards the east country and go down into the desert and go into the sea. Now, we know in the east was the tribe of Judah, right? And the tribe of Judah means praise. Well, what do you mean? These waters flow out of our praise. And if the enemy can choke out our praise by deferring our hope, by attacking us when things don't happen the way we want it to, or when you see everyone else get blessed except for you, right? And all of a sudden your praise starts getting choked out. Sometimes those rivers can't flow. And see, those rivers flow down into the desert and into the sea. Well, what are they referring to? See, if you look here, they were referring to the Dead Sea, the Dead Sea. Now, the interesting thing to note about the Dead Sea, the Jordan River flows into it, but nothing else flows out of it. In other words, there are no outlets. There are no outlets. Well, what do you mean? See, the thing is that when we start dealing with a hope deferred, when we start dealing with disappointment, when we start dealing with doubt, we start dealing with discouragement, the danger is that we don't have any outlets. We don't have other people we talk to. We don't have other things that we can engage in. And what ends up happening is we feel so low. As a matter of fact, the Dead Sea is actually 2,600, almost 3,000 feet under sea level. What do you mean? The Dead Sea is the lowest place on earth. It is the lowest place on earth. Hey, Elder Brown, good friend. I was so blessed to see Elder Brown yesterday and his son at the gym early in the morning. Jarrell's a wonderful young man, super smart, good looking, athletic. I always joke with Elder Brown and Sister Julie. I'm like, man, Jarrell is everything I wasn't growing up. And he was in there at the gym working out and everything. I'm so blessed to see young men working hard like that early in the morning. But at any rate, the Dead Sea is the lowest point on earth. And because it is so low, the water comes in, nothing can come out. And why is that significant? Well, with the Dead Sea, just like the name implies, nothing lives. Nothing lives. There is no sea life and there is no plant life. No plant life, no sea life. There is no life in the Dead Sea. Well, what are you getting at? What we've been going through the last 2 years, sometimes I feel like we can hit a real low place. And see, that's not just me, that's not just my opinion. New research from Boston University School of Public Health reveals that the rate of depression worsened in 2021. It climbed to nearly 33%, affecting 1 out of every 3 American adults. So what do you mean? 33%. If you have 3 people, one of them are going to be dealing with depression. Not only that, but the Center for Disease Control reported that 41% of respondents reported at least one adverse mental or behavioral health condition. What do you mean? Nearly half our population has dealt with some type of mental or behavioral health condition. What? See, I believe the enemy is trying to get us where it feels like we're the Dead Sea, where it feels like nothing can live, and it feels like there's no life, there's no plant life, there's no animal life, there's nothing happening. And what ends up in that state is that so many people feel so discouraged, so many people feel so low, so many people feel like life is a trudgery. People feel like life is just you're just trying to waddle through life. You're just trying to make it. It's like waking up every morning, just going to work or just taking, it's like, oh. See, I talk to Apostle about this all the time. I believe the number one thing the enemy's trying to fight at Inspiring Eric Newell Ministries in the church at large, it's trying to kill our inspiration. See, the enemy wants us to go into the Dead Sea and feel like we have no inspiration. We don't have any life. There's nothing in us. He starts trying to really mess with our hope, our earnest expectation, a godly expectation. And when things get deferred, things get postponed, when unrelenting disappointment happens, we feel heartsick. There are so many people out there that are hurting. And let me give you a couple examples. Chesley Christ, she won the Miss USA in 2019, and she was also on a TV show called Extra as a correspondent. She died at age 30. She was a former Division I athlete, and she had passed the bar exam and was an attorney. Can you imagine winning Miss USA in a huge beauty pageant like that, being a tremendous athlete, and being a lawyer, and being on TV? She died. Her mother says the daughter was privately battling depression before death. And her mother said in her private life, she was dealing with high functioning depression, which she hid from everyone, including me, her closest confidant, until very shortly before her death. Now, on the outside, you would think, my goodness, this woman has everything, talented, smart, beautiful, a wonderful person. But even those closest to her didn't realize she was dealing with this. Robin Williams once said, I think the saddest people always try their hardest to make people happy because they know what it feels like to feel absolutely worthless, and they don't want anyone to feel like that. Now, Robin Williams, we know, is a comedian and an actor. He was in nearly 100 movies. His films grossed over $5.1 billion over the course of his career, and he even managed to accrue an impressive net worth of $130 million. And he too committed suicide. See, Apostle talked about the spirit of suicide last time, and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. How many know, you hear people say the struggle is real? No, the struggle is real. It is legit. It is legit. People out there are struggling and people out there are hurting. Many of us have been struggling and hurting. I shared I shared this last year. It was such a difficult year. My wife and I, we were incredibly blessed. God blessed us so many ways. But man, I'm telling you, I struggled. After I got about this time last year, I had COVID. My wife and I were down and out for weeks. And then even after that, it took me, I don't know, a couple months just to kind of feel somewhat normal. And I still never hit normal. And I still felt sick. And I couldn't hardly wake up in the morning. I was like, God, what is going on with me? The Greek philosopher Plato once said, be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a harder battle. Teacher Rebecca likes to say that everyone always thinks they're working the hardest, right? We have no idea what people are struggling with, and we have no idea how people are hurting. You know, I shared on a couple messages recently, empathy should drive us. Empathy should drive us. Mother Teresa said, every time I look at someone, I see Jesus. We got to start recognizing that. We've got to start looking at other people, and we've got to start realizing we've got to help others. But see, the problem is that when our hope gets deferred, we really turn inward. We really turn inward. What do you mean? In the book of Haggai, it says, is it time for you, O ye, to dwell in your sealed houses, and this house lie waste? See, when we're talking about a sealed house, you know, we think of a ceiling overhead. In the Hebrew, sealed actually referred to the patterns or the paneling on a wall, or referred to the walls itself. So what do you mean? See, when our hope gets deferred, a lot of times we go into sealed houses. We go into sealed houses and we kind of lock ourselves away. And here's the thing about walls. Yes, walls can keep people out, but guess what? They can also keep you in. In other words, walls can serve as a prison. And so in the book of Haggai, the prophet is saying, do you dwell in your sealed house? Oftentimes, we could have a sealed house in our heart. We can have a sealed house in our mind. Apostle Eric calls these things mind molders. Mind molders. In other words, we feel like, well, this is never going to happen. Why should I try? Oh my goodness, I'm so disappointed. This, and we start creating lists of all the bad things that have ever happened to us in our lives. See, I believe that's the reason why we were on Gratitude Lifts Our Attitude for so long. Because God was trying to teach us how to create a godly list. He was trying to teach us how to create a gratitude list, a list of all the incredible things that He has done for us. Because if not, our human nature is to get into our sealed houses in our minds. And then the prophet says, now therefore, thus saith the Lord of hosts, consider your ways. Consider your ways. I'm asking each and every person on this line, each and every person that is watching this video that's on the phone line, consider your ways. Why? Because in the book of Haggai, he goes on to say, you have sown much and bring in little, ye eat, but you have enough. And he that earneth wages to put it into a bag with holes. How many of us, our paycheck is gone before we even receive it? You're like, hey, I get paid on Friday. By Wednesday, you're out of money, paying bill. I mean, everybody and their mama is asking you for money. You're like, Lord, what is happening? What is happening? You got a bag of holes. Thus saith the Lord, consider your ways. Consider your ways. And then he says, you looked for much and it came to little. When you brought it home, I did blow upon it. You know, I talked about how, for so long I wasn't married, but guess what? I tried to. I tried to get into relationships, right? And guess what? I did. I tried to get in these different relationships that weren't called by God. And then when God blew upon it and it fell apart, I was devastated. I was heartbroken. The prophet goes on to say, why, saith the Lord of hosts? Because of mine house that is waste, and ye run every man into his own house. The carnal mind is enmity against God. It is not subject to the law of God, neither indeed can it be so. So when we are off running into our own house, when our expectations are blinded by our own house, our sealed house, our perceptions, our mindsets, our ways of doing things, oftentimes that's why our hope gets deferred. It's not that God has perfect timing. A lot of times, God is trying to get us through our sealed houses. He's trying to get us out of our own house. He's trying to get us out of our own mind. Apostle likes to say, "You're in your head too much, Neil. You are way in your head too much." How many of you know we can be ruminating and we can just be thinking over and over what didn't happen, why it didn't happen? And if you're like me, I go into analysis mode and start analyzing everything. And God says, "Consider your ways. Mine house that is laid waste." See, even let me tell you something. Even if you have a calling, even if you think, "Hey, ministry, that's God." A lot of times we can have our own sealed house perception, our own sealed house mindset towards ministry, and we think this is my call, this is my ministry, my business, my family, my this, my that. And he says, "Because mine house that is laid waste, you run every man into his own house." When he says consider your ways, that word consider in the Hebrew means to set, direct, or transform your inner man through reflection. What are you getting at? See, if we want to be led by the Spirit, we have to consider our ways so that our inner man can be transformed. Our inner man can be directed towards his call, his will, and his perception of his call and his will. To set, direct, or transform your inner man through reflection. When I saw this, of course, I couldn't help but think of what God has been dealing with me about intuition. See, we've got to consider our ways and we've got to let intuition guide us and empathy drive us. Intuition should guide us. That is the thing that needs to be set. That's the direction. See, intuition will guide us. It'll transform our inner man if we follow it, if we listen to the leading of the Spirit. What happens? See, our intuition, we can develop our intuition like this. In Psalm 16 and 11, he says, "Thou wilt show me the path of life." See, our intuition is going to guide us towards that path of life. What do you mean? Well, that word show means to perceive, to discern. If we're led by the Spirit, we should have really, really good discernment. Okay? We should be able to discern. Discern not only, a lot of times we think of discernment as, "Oh, that's a devil, that's a devil, that's a devil." And that's true, but we also need to be able to discern God. Now, path to journey, to go. To journey to go. That will show me, that will help me perceive, that will help me discern the path, the journey. Go, go. Apostle's been having some incredible videos, go after it, motivation. And see, we always talk about go, go, go. We should be, we should be really active people. And when I say active, I don't mean just busy. I don't mean just doing a lot of things. But see, it will show me the path of life. That word life means flowing, fresh, water, lively, active, right? When people come into us and when people are in our presence, they should just feel a flow of the Spirit. If we're really led by the Spirit, they should feel the Spirit flow on them. I don't care if they're saved or not. They should be like, "Oh, there's something different about that person." And they should feel refreshed. They should feel like, "Wow, how do you do that? How are you? How do you feel? How could you do what you do?" We should feel lively and active, right? Now listen, just because we deal with discouragement or depression, I'm not judging that, but see the thing is that if we're led by the Spirit, we should find this path of life and we should be going after it. Going after what? Psalm 16:11, the second part of it says, "Thou wilt show me the path of life." Notice that colon there. "In thy presence is fullness of joy." See, if we're led by the Spirit should lead us right into His presence. It should lead us right into Him. When we get into His presence, there's fullness of joy. Joy is one of the fruit of the Spirit, or it's a part of the fruit of the Spirit, right? In it, there's fullness of love, fullness of peace, fullness of gentleness, fullness of goodness, of faith, of meekness. Also, two more aspects of the fruit of the Spirit. See, if we're in His presence, we should have a fullness of long suffering, a fullness of temperance or self-discipline. What? See, when you get in His presence, there should be a godly self-restraint to us to say, you know what, I can't go there. I can't go there. This weekend, when I had those minor irritants, those things that were discouraging, I had to say, wait a minute, no. I'm so glad to be living where we live, and I'm so God, thank you for this house because it's so easy to curse. In your presence is fullness of joy, is fullness of love, is fullness of long suffering, is fullness of temperance. See, I've been praying. I'm like, God, please help me because I can get so reactive when things don't go my way. When I get upset about things, I could just react so negatively and so poorly. Father, I need to get in his presence and I need to ask God to help me. I need God to help me. Now, here's the amazing thing. When we get in his presence, it says, at thy right hand, there are pleasures forevermore. What do you mean? Matthew 6:33 says, seek ye first the kingdom of God. If we seek his will, if we seek his presence, if we seek to bless his people, seek to bless his house, seek to bless his home, guess what? If we find him at the right hand, there are pleasures forevermore. A lot of times we could all chase things. We could chase so many things, whether it was relationships, whether it's money, whether it's status, esteem, whatever we chase. But God says, you know what? If you find me, if you get into my presence, all that stuff, that'll come. All that other stuff will come. But we've got to do it his way, his will, his way. Now, we started off today talking about a hope deferred maketh the heart sick. I'm here to tell you today that's only one half of the verse. That verse, that's only the first part of the verse. That's not the whole verse. What do you mean? Proverbs 13:12 says, a hope deferred maketh the heart sick. You notice there's a colon at the end of that, right? A colon indicates it's like an arrow signifying what's coming after it. It's like a big neon sign that says, look, there's something else coming after it. See, we quote that verse and we stop. But there is something else in that, right? The scripture says, but negates everything prior to that. What? When the desire cometh, it is a tree of life. See, in Habakkuk chapter 2, it says, for the vision is yet for an appointed time. At the end, it will speak. At the end, it shall speak. Though it tarry, wait for it will surely come. Write the vision and make it plain, so he that readeth it can run. Run where? Run into his presence. Run into him. Run to his people. Run into leaders that can help you get into his presence. What I'm here to tell you is read after the colon. Look, I don't care what disappointment we've had. I don't care what discouragement, what has been deferred. I don't care what has been postponed. If we get into his presence, that desire will come. It will be a tree of life when God does it. And listen, maybe we've made mistakes. Maybe we did things we shouldn't have done. It's okay. If we get into his presence, guess what? Job said, my Redeemer liveth. God knows how to redeem things. And guess what? He knows how to make it a tree of life. See, a tree, think about it. A tree is a little seed, right? And you put a seed into the ground. In the book of John, chapter 12, Jesus said, except a man, except a seed, fall into the ground and die, it abideth alone. But if it die, it will bring forth much fruit. Sometimes we can feel like we've died on the inside. Some of us, we may have lost people. But guess what? God has a way. He has a way that only he can to bring forth life out of that. See, a tree will bring forth leaves. It'll bring forth shade for other people. It'll bring forth life for others. People will eat the fruit of our tree. Yeah, that fruit of fullness of love, fullness of joy, fullness of peace, fullness of gentleness. That should be flowing out of our trees. See, a good tree beareth good fruit, a bad tree beareth bad fruit. I'm telling each and every one of us today, we have got to get in his presence. We have got to find him. If we find him, we'll find that fullness of joy. Listen, Listen, we've got several folks that work in social work and mental health, and man, thank God for them. I'm so glad that we've got anointed people in those fields. Why? Because we need to help people. There are so many people out there that need to eat from the tree of life, and that tree should be growing on the inside of us. And by the way, you know, God has absolutely blessed me and my family. Here's my beautiful wife and our son Ethan and our godson, Apostle Eric's grandson down there, who we consider a part of our family. And God has been adding to our family. Can't show the picture, but God has been blessing us. I'm here to tell you, when we have things like first fruits, when we have things coming up like this, you say, well, you're just trying to take up an offering? No, I'm trying to help you have the tree of life grow inside of you. Think about it. First fruits. If you sow well, if you sow, if you sow abundantly, guess what? You're going to reap abundantly. I know my wife and I have reaped abundantly. I want to share this with you. I want to share, get into his presence. Get into his presence. That's the number one thing. I don't care how bad our hope has been deferred. Get into his presence and let him deal with you. The second thing, sow into good ground. Sow into good ground, whether Jude International or Inspiring, Eric Newble Ministries. Aretha, if you can, go ahead and start putting that banner out there. Start sowing into good ground and watch God create a tree of life inside of you, inside of your family, inside of your entire life. Also, we're asking for covenant partners, people to help us with the ministry. If you can, please donate. Donate monthly. You can become a covenant partner. You're going to get exclusive content, and I'm telling you, your tree will grow. God bless you, everybody. God bless you. Thank you, Teacher Rebecca. I'm going to turn it after you after we hear from our trumpet.